Hey everyone, welcome back to our next episode of Happy Thrive Vibes. You're going to be so excited to learn more about our guest today. We have Miss Sierra Sophia Mercier, and she is a former competitive figure skater, actor, floral designer. We were both just talking about how we came from floral families. She's a mom and the author of How to Attract Your Cosmic Love Partner, a 5-step guided workbook helping people tap into and reveal their most loving selves to attract the most loving partners. And her mission is to help bring more love into the world through empowering women to deeply value themselves and inspire them to believe that true love does exist. That tugs at all my romantic heartstrings that I could possibly muster up because I think that's amazing. And I think until you truly experience unconditional love, that probably won't even make a bunch of sense because it seems like it's very far-fetched. So I'm excited to go on this journey with you and learn more about it. Did you want to start off by, I know that book was just launched, so I'd love to hear more about just the background of that book and what it offers readers.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Thanks for having me here today. So, I have an extremely kismet love story. My husband and I met the second day after I moved to Los Angeles on by chance. My living situation fell through and I had to find a place to live immediately, and I found this ad on Craigslist looking for a roommate, and I answered the ad. We hit it off. I moved in, and almost immediately we could sense that there was some sort of attraction between us. We got to know each other for a couple weeks before I actually moved in. So by the time I moved in, there was already like this heat, but also this friendship and this like we just felt like we really knew each other. So um, it was a very quick transition from roommate to boyfriend, girlfriend, and then we fell in love about a month after I moved into his apartment. And we knew we'd spend the rest of our lives together. And then we got engaged 9 months after that. And then a couple months later, we entered this contest to win an all expenses paid dream wedding. And the catch to winning the wedding was that you didn't get to pick anything. It was all voted for. So like people tuning in voted for their favorite couple, and then the winning couple also, everything about their wedding was voted on. And spoiler alert, we won this dream wedding. And so we were married in Bryant Park in New York City on Valentine's Day, this day that the world celebrates love. And it was just this magical fairy tale of a story. And that was in 2013 that we got married. And in 2020, I just kept getting this intuitive hit that, like, and I'd always thought our story needs to be in a book. It needs to be a book. But what really came through so loud and clear was this workbook in 2020. And it was just this vision of a compilation of all the things that I feel like I did in my life that helped me attract that kind of love, because I wasn't always lucky in love. And in fact, I had really bad experiences with love. I was sexually abused by my figure skating coach, and I was physically and also sexually abused by other partners. And so I just um, I didn't have the best start off in my romantic relationships. And so I had to go through a lot of what I call human revolution, karmic transformation, in order to uh, shift. What is it about me that attracted these partners that didn't value my life? And I came to the conclusion, I don't think I value my life. And so it was really this journey I went on to learn the value that I bring to relationships, the value that I bring to the world, and just that I am a deeply valuable, worthy human being. And that journey, it's interesting because it's like it can kind of happen in just the the moment that you make a decision that that's what I am, and you recognize yourself as this deeply valuable human being. But it takes time to really believe it and get it in your body. And so this workbook is basically everything that I feel like helped me make that leap from someone who didn't really understand their value and allowed themselves to be treated less than they deserved to someone who believed in their bones and their whole entire being that actually the person I end up with is going to be the luckiest person alive. And, not from this egoic place, but really from this deep, grounded sense of inherent value. So, I feel like a lot of women struggle with this, and I just want to be a voice of encouragement and a facilitator because I really believe that our planet needs more love in the world. And romantic love is a part of that. But the journey to attracting that kind of romantic love really starts with self love and becoming a more loving individual. And when you become this radiant being of love, that's what you're going to attract. So that's what I want to help bring more of into the world.
Because it's so many different areas of your life are impacted by your own perception of your self-worth. We are our own mean girl. And I'm almost 50 and I still don't get it. I still find myself saying things to me that I would never let anyone else say to me. And I think, I mean, now I'm reflective enough to be able to say, well, that wasn't very nice. And that you do bring what you feel your worth. And I think I think it's so unique that you created like a how-to guide, a workbook, because you didn't just share your story. You could have just stopped at sharing your story and said, hey, this is great. This is what I learned in my life. This is what I went through, and this is the trauma that I overcame. And then this is now my highlight reels. But you didn't stop there. You actually created a path and a workbook for others to go on that same journey and dig in deep on themselves to be able to understand how they can attract someone so that they can have their own true love. For me, my pivotal point of I did have to learn the self-worth. I'm still learning that as I go, but I found my true love 20 years ago. And my biggest shift was changing my focus from what I didn't want, because I knew what I didn't want, because I attracted all that. Changing my focus to what I did want and what I did deserve and what I did see myself having in a partner. So that was my shift.
Wow.
But I
Yes.
didn't write a book about it. So I think anyone who gets this, I've been reading it, and I think anybody who gets it is going to be, you talk a lot about risk, even in the introduction. And I think it is taking a risk. And I think it's understanding that we're worth the risk
Yeah,
to make change.
that quote, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. I feel like love is a risk. Like we go out on the line. When we love someone, we are putting our hearts on the line and with no guarantee that it's gonna be safe in some ways, like we hope that, we want that. But in my experience, like the the act of loving someone, whether that ends up being your life partner or not, that in and of itself is a cause that you're making. Like I think of it as like coins that you're putting into a deposit. So the more love you give, the more you receive. And it really, I'm trying not to say it doesn't matter who you give that love to. Of course it matters. But what I'm saying is that it's it's going to benefit you more to just love. Like, don't withhold love. If you withhold love because you're scared or afraid that it's not going to work out or that someone's not going to love you back, like you're already setting yourself up for not receiving the full Monty of love. So, love with abandon, love with your whole heart. And if it doesn't work out, oh my gosh, that heartbreak is so painful, but it's so like heart opening. Like it literally breaks your heart open, and you're going to learn so much and you're going to grow so much from that heartbreak that you're only going to up level. You're only going to attract greater love and have more love because of it. So that's why I say, like, take the risk risk heartbreak, go into love just with your full heart and full self. And if it doesn't work out the first time, like, there's another time and it's going to be even greater and even better.
Oh, what a fantastic perspective. That's a great perspective. I like it. So when I was learning more about you prior to our interview, I'm fascinated because I feel like you put that risk-taking factor into every aspect of your life. And from someone who, now I started getting goosebumps when you were talking about how they voted on everything for your wedding, because as a control freak, a self-proclaimed control freak, that makes me very nervous. And it's not that my way is better. I think it's just the giving over of the control and not knowing makes me really nervous. But everything I've learned about you is you took risks and you were great, and you would never have done those things if you hadn't have taken the risk. So for an example, my first question, well, this is like my 37th question, but my first one that I actually wrote before we came in here. You competed successfully at the elite level for over 10 years and became a triple gold medalist with the US Figure Skating Association. That's huge. That's huge. And then your journey from competitive figure skating shifted over to acting. And I feel like that's a significant transition. So can you share with us how navigating that shift was, what it was like, the risks that you took, and how you overcame them for yourself? Did you even think about the risks, or were you like, that's what looks good and that's what I'm trying? What inspired you to pursue acting after such success in ice skating, two totally different things, fields?
Well, it's funny that you say that it sounds like this big transition. For me, it was just the most seamless transition because it was like I had finally found something that filled this void in my heart that skating had left behind. My competitive skating career ended due to an injury. So it really felt like it wasn't my decision until I had to make the decision for my health. But I, at that time in my life, it was a really interesting convergence of energies that just started swirling. And so I had moved and I made this decision to stop competing. And then I got introduced to Nichiren Buddhism and I started a Buddhist practice. And then I started just kind of trying all these different things that I was interested in. I apprenticed as a sushi chef. I became a Muay Thai fighter, which is Thai kickboxing, and I started taking acting classes. And going to acting class was like going to skating practice, and working on what we'll call a scene was like working on my program. And then going to uh, auditions was like going to competition. And then the casting directors that were making the decision on who got the role, those were like the judges that decided who was on the podium. So it was just like, oh, here's something that's just like skating, but it doesn't hurt my ankle. Sign me up. And in
Oh my
retrospect, it was
gosh.
like, okay, I'm gonna do the hardest sport that there is. And I don't care who's listening that disagrees with me. Skating is the hardest sport. And then I'm gonna do the next hardest thing possible, which is being a successful actress. So I don't like to go easy on myself. I like to make things pretty hard, obviously. But yeah, whatever is in my karmic blueprint, I just make decisions to do the hardest thing possible.
I love it. Well, I can't even stand ice skates. My weak ankles I couldn't even get on the rink. And I used to like roller skate, what kid didn't roller skate? No, I can't. So I'm agreeing with you. I couldn't even stand in the ice skates. So you had to have had really strong ankles. And they're real impressive. And I thought about that shift of you seamlessly transition from one to the other, which is so, so cool. So, um, one of the studios that you used to frequent when you to Los Angeles was the Imagine Life with Diana Castle. And being part of that studio, I think was part of a pivotal shift for you in your acting career and just in life in general for your perspective of practicing empathy for others and stepping into other people's shoes. So, how did that influence your approach to not only acting, because it's so competitive, but to just your life in general?
Thank you so much for asking this question because I think I experienced how the practice of empathizing didn't just make me a better actor, it made me a better human being. And it's because on a daily basis we were being asked to put aside our own judgments, our own lens of how to view life, and put someone else's shoes on and really see the world through these new lenses that you're given by the writer. You know, the writer tells you this is who you are, this is what you believe, this is the time that you live in. And so then my job as an actor was to create the world of that. You know, what is the world of living from that experience? And the practice of doing that also involved learning how to deeply listen. And so I apply that to when I meet someone, I like really try to deeply listen to this person. And then also it taught me how to ask questions. You know, I think Diana would tell us that there was this one casting director that would say to her, I wish actors would stop trying to be interesting and would get interested. And that really spoke to me because I think in life, like we're all trying to be interesting, we're all trying to get people to like us. I mean I am. I've always wanted people to like me growing up and in life, and I still do. But I've shifted it to be like, well, actually I really want to get to know somebody else. I don't I It helped me take the spotlight off of me in a way, and put it on to the other person. And it's just made me more interested in the world, in other people, asking more questions. And so I'm just so grateful for that training and that teaching, that philosophy of empathy, because how else are we supposed to end wars if we can't empathize with one another?
Absolutely. And we don't, I mean, you just shed a whole new light on, you perceive bias and the things that we don't even realize that we have bias. I'm sure that as an actor, you were realizing more and more what you had from your belief system to your experiences growing up. I mean, it's limited. So when you're playing the role and you're having to think as a different person who has a different religion or a different background, or, I mean, if someone were to say to me, you grew up in a happy family and everybody was so sweet and kind. And I would be like, I don't even understand how I could know where that comes from because that wasn't my lived experience. You know what I mean? So I think that that does give you such a great perspective of what other people are going through, whether we can fathom it or not. That is their life.
Yeah, and the fact that we all have an imagination, this is like a gift that we all possess, this imaginative world that we live in. We all have the ability to, like, even like what you just said, you didn't grow up in this home, but you have an imagination. You can imagine what would it be like to grow up in that home, and then you can empathize what that experience is like, and vice versa. You know, somebody who does grow up in a positive household, um, or I think religion is a big one that we tend to fight each other on, but we have the power of imagination. We can we can step into somebody else's shoes and try to uh, relate to, oh, what must that experience have been like? And it's just such a powerful tool.
It is. I agree. I remember. So the business perspective of that is, Stephen Covey, seek first to understand before being understood. That's what I live by in having any conversation with anybody. I'm in education, and I, I don't, I don't ever assume I know everything. I don't ever assume I know all parts of the story, or what the one thing meant to one person versus what it meant to the other person. I really do seek to understand before being understood. And it sounds like that is the same. So I like that alignment.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I mean, on to your diverse experiences. So you also have a food review series called It's a Mouthful with the Taste Buds, and it showcases your comedic side and love for exploration, even in the realm of food, which I love this because I love eating and I love trying new things, but I don't know if I would try the things that you've tried and with a camera on me. But how do you believe humor and curiosity, we've already talked about the empathy, contribute to maintaining a joy-filled life? And what role does humor and curiosity have in your overall well-being?
Whoa, that is a big question, Laura.
It
I mean,
is, it is.
I just, I can't imagine living life without being curious and adventurous and trying new things. I mean, maybe because my mom, I have memories of going hiking with my parents and coming across little berries, and my mom would always taste it, and so she was always unafraid of the natural world, and I watched her taste things to get to know them, and smelling things, and because she's the florist, she's like, uh, loves plants and flowers, and so maybe that's where it came from. But I just love tasting different kinds of foods and vegetables and fruits, and exploring the adventure of our planet, which is so vast and big. And I'm a big my husband and I are big travelers. Have backpacked all over the world, and so I love going to the markets and seeing all these, weird fruits and vegetables I've never seen before, and trying them even if they don't taste good or whatever. I just love that experience. And I think you asked like what sort of role that plays in having a joy-filled life. Was that
Yeah,
right?
how does that play into your having maintaining a joy-filled life and just in your overall well-being and probably in your relationship? I'm sure you talk about that in your book too. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm sure, I mean, either opposites attract or you complement each other so well. And he's always like, yes, I'm game. Let's backpack. Let's go volunteer somewhere in a foreign country and eat things that don't smell good. So
Yeah, he's definitely more of a
one or the
compliment
other.
in that regard. Uh, I just I feel like uh it's exciting to try new things, and it's only going to expand you as a human being, and expansion is a good thing. So that, and in humor, I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself for things, um then you really need to lighten up. And I've learned that because I was a very serious child. I was born with the look on my face like, what is, like, what am I doing here? Who are these people? Like, and it's just really, just very furrowed brow. And my birth chart says that I was born as a detective, so that I incarnated in this lifetime,
That
and
makes so much sense.
I need to figure this one out. And I really believe that I've lived many lives, and I've been told that uh, I had a lot of past lives that were perhaps unsavory. But I know I've also been told I've had some really powerful past lives too. But that this life has just been very much as a detective and trying to get to the bottom of things. And so as a kid, I was quite serious. And I think I just learned to lighten up over time through things like what you're talking about, through trying new foods or trying new career paths. And when I think what's been a real gift in my life is when something doesn't work out, I've had a pretty good, if not stubborn and hard-headed, um, way of being like, well, I'm just gonna try something else.
You're like
Like,
plot twist, moving on to the next thing.
yeah, I mean,
That's
like
good.
I
I
was
didn't
a
learn how to be light and have more fun in life until I was, I mean, older. I was the same. I was always very serious. I was a finance person and a tax accountant. I mean, I was very. It took me a long time. I mean, I remember working with a coach who's one of my really good friends. She was like, "Your word is play." I'm like, "I don't have time to play." And so, and now my whole life revolves around what am I doing this weekend? When can I play? Do I think the manatees are coming? Are we now? Like what's happening? And now I don't get the Sundays like, oh, I don't want to go to work. I get the like, oh man, the weekend went so fast. So for me, it was later in life for me when I finally started taking myself and life just lighter in general, much more playful now.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that because what are we doing here if we're not enjoying ourselves?
Exactly. I agree exactly. Now,
Look
so this
outside.
next question, it's
The
funny.
planet is one big playground. And I will say
It is.
that nature is the best reminder to play. When my husband and I backpacked around the world and we went to Iceland, these little kids just came out of us. We just could not stop. We it just brought out our inner child. And what I reflected on, did Iceland do that? And it's because Iceland is such raw mother nature. It's like been very untouched, and it still has the potent power of mother nature, millions of years old glaciers and canyons and volcanoes and cliff sides. I mean, it's everyone should see Iceland at some point in their life. It's incredible. And I felt how nature just like pulled this play out of us. And also, of course, it's only dark in the summer for maybe 4 to 6 hours of the day. So there's
So
all
it's
this.
playing all day long.
So we're like 2:30 in the morning, like running around the beach. So, yeah, nature is pure medicine. If anyone is struggling to
I
tap into that lightness that you're talking about and that play, like just go get in the dirt and in the grass and hug a tree and just immerse yourself in Mother Nature.
it's true. I have found that the most unique things happen to me when I'm having fun. Like I can be in the, like I'm working and I'm concentrating and I'm trying to, get a project done. And my husband will text me from downstairs and he'll say, your friends are here. I'm like, which type of friends? And he'll say, the manatees. I'm like, oh, in that case. And I'll run downstairs. Sometimes I don't have shoes on. Sometimes I don't have I don't have my phone. A lot of people, they've got to, capture everything. And I will just stop what I'm doing and I will just be in awe of these manatees. I will talk to them like they're babies and they don't know me from anybody, but they just are huge and they're in there. Sometimes they come with their babies and they're so beautiful. But I've had the most like an interesting phone call come that's really good while I'm playing. Like the most interesting good things have happened to me while I am the most out of touch with reality playing in nature or in the boat. And I'll be reading a book and then all of a sudden there's just dolphin that we run into and they're playing alongside the boat and I just lose my mind because I can't believe it. And then it's like I can't even remember what I was doing beforehand, even when it was like that was all consuming in the moment.
I love
So
that because it's all energy, right? You know, you put yourself into this wide open, joyful, bubbly energy, and you're gonna have that reciprocated.
it is. I mean, look at how animated I got just talking about my manatee friends. I love them so much.
I love
I even
that.
dog. Like if I'm feeling like I'm having that kind of a day, I will just go out in the living room and I will play with my dog until I'm happy again. And then I will come back in my office and keep going. But it's true. And now you can hear my dog now. But it is true. It is true. Just having fun and being in nature. I underestimated the impact that it could have, and it is absolutely the most fun you can have. Just even going for a walk and it's just weird how it can just shift your whole perspective of what's important and what's meaningful and what matters. And even in the moment when you feel so stressed out about the big thing that you're stressed out about.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. Now, so these four things, I'm going to list these four things. I bet you always win at two truths and a lie because your background is so diverse that people are like, wait, which one is no, they're all true. I've done them all. I've done all the things. I've taken the risks. So winning the Not Dream Wedding, being crowned Miss Mongolia in the Queen of the Universe pageant, senior level
And
Muay
miscongeniality.
and Miss Congeniality, senior level Muay Thai fighter, a world winning, I'm sure too, award winning floral designer. What a diverse background. And you've been accomplished in all of those areas. Obviously, it's because you give 100%. I'm just having a conversation with you. You can see that you're all in. There's no question about it. Whatever you're doing, you're all in. Well, what advice do you have to others who, now I don't know anybody else who's pursuing it doesn't seem diverse to you, but for me, I've never even lived anywhere but the state of Florida. So for me, that just seems like just such an array of joys to have in one lifetime. But what advice would you have to others who are pursuing multiple passions and interests in life and how to find balance in all of that? Which one to go for? Because I mean, obviously, I don't think you were doing all of these things at one time, giving 100%.
Right. Yeah. There was definitely seasons of things. For me, it's just listening to my heart. Like, where is my heart leading me? And I feel like, you and I talked before this podcast about how the what you're trying to accomplish with your podcast is to encourage people who are, maybe feeling like they didn't have the greatest um, start and now they're trying to transform their life somehow. And so I probably come off of as just this really happy person. I must have always been this way. And that's not actually the case. I was raised even though my parents deeply loved me, they both struggled with addiction and alcoholism. And so that played a huge role in my life because that was my childhood and I was an only child. I am an only child and so I just always had to take care of myself. And I think I was a very sensitive being. I still am very sensitive. And so I just always had to like really have my own back and take care of myself. And I think what that led to is just a really intimate connection with my own life and my own inner being. And I also have to recognize that I feel like I did have support from my parents to follow my dreams and my heart. Like they supported my figure skating. I left home at 16 and I moved to a training center, and so they've always really supported what my goals and dreams were. But also I had a deep connection to what is my heart telling me to do right now. And when it came to the Muay Thai fighting, I didn't know it at the time, but looking back on it, I feel like my soul knew that it had this unprocessed anger that needed to be expressed. And so I just followed the feelings of what felt good. And it felt good at that time in my life to be punching and kicking a bag and like pulling my inner fighter out and feeling strong, and it boosted my self-confidence so much. And I went from feeling like my figure skating career didn't pan out the way that I had hoped. I had my sights set on the Olympics and I only like made it so far. But and then also, my coach took advantage of me and I had to heal that relationship too. So every step of the way has really just been because my heart is leading me in that direction. And I say in the book, like, our heart is our greatest compass. If you live your life following your heart, not your head, because the head is, tends to overthink things and analyze things, but like drop into the heart and the soul and go in that direction. Like, you'll never be steered wrong, ever, if you follow your heart.
What advice do you give to those? It took me a long time to not, because I only had what it felt like my brain was what got me through life, of just, well, I learned this and this didn't go well. And I can logistically think of like three different ways this could go very quickly and create plan A, B, and C in my head. And it took me a long time to trust my heart. So what advice do you give to those who are trying to make that shift from, because you're right, our brains, they tell us stories, they make things up. It's like AI. If the AI doesn't know the answer, it's going to make something up, but they say it so well that you're like, that has to be true. But our brains do the same thing. And it is different than what your heart's telling you. So when someone's trying to make that shift from making decisions and thinking from their head to their heart, how do you speak to that?
I feel like a spiritual practice is essential. For me, that was a Buddhist chanting practice. Like, I chant the mantra Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and the chanting is like a supercharged meditation. We call it an active meditation. And so I feel like meditation is also really powerful too. Just sitting in silence and stillness and learning to, so I like to think of when we are living in our heads, our our energy is really up here and it's kind of frenetic, and that in order to drop into the heart, we have to like come back into our bodies. And what that requires is learning how to sit, learning how to like inquire within our heart, through meditation, through journaling, and also through movement of the bodies, like somatic work. That's why somatic therapy is so powerful, but dancing and anything that gets you to, and shaking is a really good practice that I've started doing too. So getting you to move from the energy up here into your body, that's going to help you drop into the heart space. So movement is huge.
That's so funny. Even when I got married at sunrise so that we didn't have to have any dancing. I never danced, don't know how to dance. I'm learning all these things. I'm almost 50. I mean, I need to change my podcast to like all these things I've learned now that I'm 50, because by the time I get there, I'll have learned so much. And I'm grateful that I learned it, even if it's late in life. But truly, I did a lot of thinking and overthinking across my life. But now I do meditate. I do, go with my heart. And you know what? If I think about something and it makes me animated and happy, probably a good choice. If I think about it and have to convince myself, I mean, that speaks for itself. So if
That's
someone's learning,
so powerful. Yeah.
there's your quick. Do you have to convince yourself? Then pass it. Are you happy about it? Are you playing with manatees? Go play with the manatees. That's the age of my life.
I love it. You're right on time.
what's next for you? All of these things that you've done, and you published your book, and you have, your what's next for your adventures?
Well, what's next is I'm writing a second book. And so the first book was How to Attract Your Cosmic Love Partner, and the second book is about starting a conscious family. I really, I didn't know if I wanted children or not. It was something that I really had to do a lot of inner work on to release the blocks that I had that were preventing me from wanting to start a family. I mean, I had this incredible connection to this amazing man. We fell in love. Our love story is just like unbelievable. And having children was really important to him. And I think we just didn't even talk about it because our connection was so strong. It was like we didn't need to talk about, well, do you want kids or not? We just, I think, yeah, we just didn't even talk about it. But at a certain point in our marriage, 7 years in, 8 years in, the the topic started coming up and I would get so defensive and I would be like, don't talk about it. I'm not ready. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm like 35 years old and I'm still saying I'm not ready. And maybe I should look into what's really stopping me here. And so I did a lot of deep inner work and and it actually was like a 3-year process for me to finally decide that I was ready to start a family. And it was very important to me that we do it in a specific way. And what that way was for me, I had this vision of going somewhere really special and creating what I called a conscious conception ceremony. And it was like, I want to go somewhere and take this trip, be in a beautiful place somewhere in the world, and have a ceremony. Like, this is a big deal. I want to commune with the universe and call in a soul that wants to make the world a better place, that is here for a purpose and a mission. And so we did that. One thing that I had to accomplish before we started a family that was really important to me was I wanted to swim with whales. And as a manatee lover, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. um, I it was just very important to me that I swim with whales. And so we made a trip to French Polynesia and we swam with humpback whales and we spent 2 weeks in this beautiful paradise connecting with each other and creating these ceremonies around the purpose why we're here is to call in a soul that wants to join our family and make the world a better place. And I got pregnant on the first try doing it like this. So I, even the doctor, I told her what my plan was, and she kind of laughed in my face and was like, it can take a year to get pregnant. Like, just, okay, that's good for you. You go do that, hun, and, just come back to me when you're pregnant. And like, I just believed so deeply in that this is how it's going to happen. And it did. So my next book is that journey and how to encourage people to approach starting a family with this kind of reverence and this kind of care and thought and ceremony behind it.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. And I'm sure that your doctor is going to be the first one to buy that book because she's going to remember that. I'm sure that's something that she's going to take with her forever, that you did. You did exactly what you said you were going to do, even though she thought it was so far-fetched.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Think about the world would be so different if people approached the big things in their life with intention like that. I mean, I can't even imagine. It'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
that you just hit the nail on the head right there. It's all about intention. Yeah.
It is. Wow, that's beautiful. So that's what's next. How can our viewers on YouTube or when they're listening on the podcast, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, actually, our entire French Polynesia trip is on YouTube. We have a travel series. It's called Love, Set, Run. So if you're already on YouTube, go check out Love, Set, Run. Maybe you'll have a link to it. I don't know. But Love, Set, Run is our travel series. And we have the first season, which was our around the world backpacking trip where we did volunteer work in the countries that we visited. And then the second season is our French Polynesia trip, which is stunning and beautiful. Like you'll love it. Lots of nature. So, and swimming with whales. So that's can't, it's hard to top.
So cool. I
Um,
will. I'll include that in the show notes for sure, because
okay,
I'd love
great.
for everyone to be able to watch that and get to know you more and just be as impressed with you as I am. Because I mean, seriously, when I was reading about you, and I said this when we met before we recorded the podcast, I just expected you to be 150 years old from all of the experiences that you had already had. And it made me, it actually made me smile because it seems in talking with you these few times, you do everything 100% and you have fun. You don't have a checklist with what you wanted to accomplish in your life and you're checking those things off. You have goals when you're putting your mind to something, but you truly do listen to your heart for what is fun and then you maximize that fun and it's incredible. I mean, just I love learning from you for how you did that for yourself because I'm hoping to just glean a little bit, my way and let go of some control, and go have fun with more manatee-like playmates.
Thank you for saying that. And I just want to say that even like even though it does sound like I just follow my heart and I do what's fun, and which is true, but the chase for my skating career definitely was with these big trophies and medals in mind and titles. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be at the Olympics. I wanted to have these titles and trophies. And I, earned a lot of them along the way, but I had my sights set on the big one. And when that didn't work out or didn't happen the way I envisioned, there's a loss there. There's definitely a loss that happens, but I think continuing to just be a better version of myself in whatever way I can do that has enabled me to have the realizations later in life that, like, oh, actually it wasn't about the titles and trophies. Like, I gifted myself in this lifetime the ability to skate effortlessly and beautifully across the ice. Like, that is the true reward, not the titles and the trophies. And same thing with acting. Like, when I entered acting in my early 20s, I was like, I want to win an Academy Award. Like, I want to be the best. I want that trophy. And again, it's like, it's about the journey, not the destination. And as long as you are having fun, I'll share this. It might sound a little woo woo, but
I'm woo woo. Bring on the woo
okay,
woo.
okay. So the first ayahuasca experience that I had, journey, I was inquiring about my career as an actor, and the vision that came to me was this dog running with like this big slobbery grin on its face. And it was chasing a carrot. And the message was, the dog's gonna catch the carrot, but that's not the point. The point is how much fun the dog is having chasing the carrot. And so that alone really was such a good visual reminder of what it's all about.
And you gave yourself permission to be okay when you didn't get the things that you were going towards. And I think that made you just in your metamorphosis to feel the value of yourself. I mean, you could have gotten stuck there that you didn't win and that you had to stop because of your ankle and the trauma, the traumatic abuse that you faced doing all of that. I mean, that could have been your defining moment, and you let it be, but in a good way. Like you put that towards something else. And I think all of that was just the rise of your self-worth, and you just didn't know it yet until you could. I mean, hindsight is 2020. There's a reason that saying is so popular. But in reflection, I mean, it built you into the strong person. All of that gave you the self-esteem and the strength to pivot. And what a good role model you are for those around you and your family, that you can do that. If it's not working, you're not stuck there.
Yeah. And I really have to give all that credit to my spiritual practice. I would not be where I am today without having a daily practice that connects me to my higher self, that is supported by a philosophy that is based on the dignity of life and human potential. Like I am surrounded by encouragement and a community and a practice that is continuously reminding me of what I'm capable of my potential, and to continue to polish and unearth like my highest self, my inner Buddha. And so I have to credit that practice to helping me become this person, this version of myself.
Wow. Well, thank you for all of the nuggets that you shared. Thank you for letting us ask the questions that got to know the nitty gritty, like the underneath of all of your highlight reels, because it every single person that I interview, my husband, when I first started this, he's like, so your podcast is for happy people? I'm like, not really. I mean, it's for happy people, but happy people aren't usually always happy. And even if they are always happy, there's something in them that's making them fake it until they make it, because everyone has to go through some kind of challenge to get where they are. And it's all about just choosing to live a life that you can choose to be intentional, and you can have abundance, and or not. And I have days where I'm like, I don't even want to talk to people today, and I don't want to be in society, and I think I'm just going to keep my negativity to myself. And then there are other days that I'm like, okay, I'm here, I'm back, I'm here to spread joy. So I appreciate you being part of our podcast, and thank you so much for your time today. I hope people listen to this and then listen to it again and listen to it again. And I'll share your links in the show notes so that everyone can see your YouTube and your experiences too, so they can get to know you better and learn more about your book.
Thank you so much, Laura. It really means a lot to me.
Thanks, Sierra. All right, everybody, like, share, subscribe. Take care. Keep thriving.